Done. All right, this week was Luis's pick, the Grizzlies, which was it 2018 film?
Yep, 2018.
And how'd you come across this?
That's a good question. Give me a moment. I think I was just looking at independent movies, maybe.
Oh, okay. So, directed by Miranda Depensier. Well, you get to give the breakdown. It's your movie.
Okay. I'm just going to read a little synopsis.
Okay.
In a small Arctic town struggling with the highest suicide rate in North America, just went away. Sorry.
A group of Inuit students lives are transformed when they're introduced to the sport of lacrosse. I always have a hard time with these Inuit names. I mean, they're and I'm native, and I can't pronounce them. Kugluktuk, Nunavut. I don't know if it's this town in particular, but a lot of these Inuit super far north towns just are plagued with suicide and alcoholism because there is absolutely nothing going on there. Like everything is like there's no entertainment of any kind. All the products and foodstuffs have to be flown in. So like a box of cereal is like $70.
Seriously. He's not joking.
Like that scene where they, after his first day, what's the kid's name who plays the teacher? It's Will Sasso is in this, but Will's he's a different coach. Ben Schnitzer. Is that him?
Sorry, my phone.
What's his name?
Things keep disappearing.
Ben Schnitzer.
The teacher.
Yeah.
Who comes from the...
Yeah, but Ben Schnitzer plays him, Russ. After his first day of trying to teach kids who have no interest in being in school, he gets punched out by one of his students. He's just venting to Will Sasso about how tough this is going to be, and he goes grocery shopping, and he spends $300 for basic groceries.
Yeah. It's winter weather there all the time. It's cold. It's gray. I mean, there's nothing to do. What really struck me was the suicide rate thing. I mean,
especially with the opening shot, which we won't spoil, but
there was just a lot of it in the movie.
People are, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. Maybe I don't like the word privilege. Just this is not a concern that we have.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But
it's a concern, but not to the degree that it would be if you were living in a different situation. Yeah.
They literally have nothing to. There are some kids there their parents drink all the time.
All the time. And they're drunk so much that they don't interact function with their kids. They don't function. They don't do. They're just it's like they're in the house.
Yeah, they're slowly like that one scene where Russ goes to recruit one of these kids to join the team.
Oh yeah, and he has to get permission from his parents.
Yeah, and the parents are just they're just passed out, drunk on the sofa. And just that picture, you're like, this is what this kid deals with every day.
Every day.
And it's weird to put yourself in the mindset of being in a place where there's no industry, there's very little work, there's no entertainment, there's not that much. If you don't work for the oil field, you just kind of exist. And I think I told you my folk. This kind of hit me a little because my folks moved us up to northern Michigan, which wasn't like Nunavut, but I asked my old man why we moved, because we were from down this way. And then we moved up there. And when I was a little older, I asked him why we moved up there. And my mother was an alcoholic. And he told me the reason he did that was he thought that the nature and the scenery would make her stop drinking. And this is like in the late 70s, so nobody knows anything about how the mind works, let alone chemical dependency. But it's funny, like having eyes in 2024, looking backwards, you're like, you thought taking her to a somewhat remote would make it better, wilderness heavy area where there's much less to do. I mean, it was like we still found plenty of things to do to enjoy ourselves, but when you're more removed and isolated, you thought that'd be good for an alcoholic. That, like, alcoholism was a big problem up there. And my mom's native, so anyone who's listening who's going to get your panties in a bunch about, stereotypes, I can talk about my own people. There's a lot of alcoholism within the Native American community. It's all over the place, and I'm not going to get into a conversation about why that is, but it's a stereotype for a reason. And like looking back on that, like, you thought taking her up there would make her not want to drink?
I think maybe.
No, I understand why he did at the time. But like now, like, especially after watching this movie, just seeing that kid's parents like sprawled out on the couch, just like, it didn't even look, they were alive, but they barely looked like they were breathing. I mean, hats off to I do have a critique for how he shot this, but like that one, I'm sure it was just kind of a throwaway shot, but just that picture, I'm like, I have seen drunk parents like that. They're totally incapacitated. And it's, I don't know, it brings back a lot of feelings. But I don't think we've even really covered the synopsis here. So Russ flies in because he's
doing some kind of work study. It's not called work study.
Yeah, he's doing a work study for like a year, and then he can pick which prep school, or not prep school, or Ivy League thing he goes to.
Something. But
it'll look good on his resume, I guess.
Yeah, that he came out to help.
In the middle of nowhere. And these kids out here, they really underscore how they have no hope. Just it's not so much hope as just they don't know what the outside world is.
They don't know what the outside world is, and they're just trying to survive day to day. Like, literally. And everything kids, about it.
Like, they have no money, so they have to hunt for food. That one kid, he's like, he has to dropping out of school. It's not really, even the principal kind of doesn't care. Yeah, they just don't even bother. They just look the other way. It's funny because even the administration is like, who gives a shit? Like, these kids, they're like, nobody cares. It's like, you would think that like in an inhospitable environment, like the people would come together. But it's almost kind of like the polar, pardon the pun, polar opposite. Like, we're up here, life sucks. It's always gonna be like this. There's nothing you can do to change that.
At the end of the day, we still have to go back home where it's completely and totally miserable.
Yeah, and it's just, they live on, it's kind of a tundra-esque terrain, so there's like a little bit of hills, but people have their homes made out of like shipping containers. And it's just it's a cold, rough life. And even Russ, he's looking around all these people drinking. He's like, oh God, this is so depressing. And by like, you're 30 minutes in and there's bottles of booze all over his apartment.
He's drinking too, yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry, I hijacked this a little bit when we start talking.
It's okay.
But, like pick up with Russ. So he's here doing this work study thing. And
so he's here doing this work study thing. He finds out that groceries are very, very expensive. And he's living in, a barely there, not a barely there, I shouldn't say that. He lives in, like you said, like a shipping container house, small house. There was something else I was going to say. Oh, so he is teaching English or something to,
or history.
Are they middle school? History, you're right.
They're high school kids.
High school. And really all that we ever see in the movie of him teaching is just being in the classroom and, I would say, trying to call attendance.
Yeah.
And just that alone is like, what would you say? An experience.
Yeah, we can't underscore it enough. These kids don't give a shit.
They're either like, it's amazing because, you know, for example, like in a classroom you have, you know, I don't know, 24 desks and you have them sitting, you know, in like an array, like 4 by 6. And most of the seats are, well, I'd say like half of the seats are filled. And the kids that are there who answer when their name is called, they give some smart aleck response. Mm-hmm. And then the other kids that their names are called, they're not even there. Mm-hmm. And the kids that are there are answering for them like, oh, that person's not coming in, or oh, that person, because again, nobody cares if they come to school or not. And
it's not considered a priority.
No, and there doesn't have to be a reason for them not to come to school. But the reason is because they're home taking care of their families or out hunting so their family can survive. And that's like all we ever see of school. I guess we see a little more of school. He does ask, Russ asks them to write a paper maybe, which actually I thought was really very bold of him. Because I remember that
these kids are flipping him off. One of them punches him.
Knocks him to the ground. Yeah, I thought it was very bold of him to ask. Like, I was under the impression that at that point in the movie, he had only been really a teacher in that classroom for like a week or two, if even. And then he was like, and then he asked if they would write a 3-page paper. I think he said they could pick any topic that they wanted. Mm-hmm. But 3 pages. Yeah. 3 pages. How do you even know if these kids can write? Yeah. Like, and do they have paper and pencil or a computer or whatever?
Which sounds very like rudimentary, but like you can't take anything for granted up there. I mean, with cereal costing that much money, like let alone paper or writing utensils or
no one's gonna turn in a paper.
Yeah.
They're sitting in class wearing the clothes that they put on in the morning, you know? Yeah. Like there's
one girl who is she's responsible and she puts forth the effort, but even her, you find out her home life is horrible and she's brutalized by her sister who got pregnant and had a kid too young, and somehow it made it what was that girl's name?
It's all her fault.
Yeah,
the younger sibling. Yeah and she gets reprimanded and in trouble for everything because everything is her fault when really she didn't do anything. And it's so sad because you see her, she's trying so hard to do well in school.
Is it Grace?
That doesn't sound right.
I know it's not Spring. Miranda? We saw
I think it is Miranda.
Yeah, Miranda. Emerald McDonald, played by Emerald McDonald. This is the funny thing about not even funny, but like Native actors or Inuit actors, if there's ever a movie that comes out, especially like a Hollywood production, something that gets a release, you tend to see a lot of the same Native people get those roles. Because, I mean, there's just not a lot of movies that highlight Native Americans.
Yeah.
Because usually if they do, the subject matter is about something about being Native, and so there's not a ton of those projects. And when they do, like if you look on IMDb at this movie, there's almost no pictures for the cast.
I was looking at that, and I was like,
the white guys have them.
Yeah. And
there's 1 or 2 natives that have their photo on IMDb, but I think these kids might want to be actors, but in all reality, outside of the project that they got onto with this one, there's not going to be a ton of roles.
Nope.
But anyway, so it's a good, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes of him just realizing the shit that he's in with all these students who have nothing going for them. And then
what is he going to do to change it? And how is he going to change it? And it's just like, it's like hopeless on both sides. That's what I feel like.
How did the lacrosse thing come into play? He was a player?
I think he was a player.
Yeah.
When he was in college or high school or something.
Yeah.
And he thought, and it was one thing that he really loved. And he thought that he could bring, the game of lacrosse to these kids and see if maybe they would like it.
It's funny because they're so far north that, they're Canadian. He asks them at one point, what's the national sport of Canada? And they're all like, hockey. He's like, actually, no. It's lacrosse. And he tries to recruit this team. Lisa's yawning. She's getting a bit drowsy.
It's something that happens when I sit here. I don't know.
It's this lighting.
Because
we'll be uncomfortable if we turn these lights up.
Completely. Okay, well, it's fine.
Yeah, these kids were super resistant to, understandably so, to having a team formed. But he kind of hits them with, "What else do you have going on?"
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and they don't. There's absolutely nothing. So he gets them all together. I also think that for them, being in, like you were saying, the team thing, being in that kind of environment, it's not like they were in a classroom. They weren't sitting at desks or anything. They were out in the middle of nowhere in a group. Mm-hmm. All of these kids who, they know who each other is, but the way that they're being, what's being asked of them is something that's totally foreign to them, completely and totally. And not only that, first you have to learn what lacrosse is, and then it involves equipment and things that they don't have. And
they have a $300 PE budget, and he gets the principal to give it to him, and he has to have all this stuff flown in.
It's not like you can go to the store down the street and buy it.
There are no stores. There's a grocery store, but to have any kind of sporting equipment, it's
no way.
Yeah. This whenever I think about this movie, I would just struggle with. I think that's the hardest thing to wrap my head around, and I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here, but having nothing to do.
There really is nothing to do. There were a couple of shots in the movie when they showed them hanging out, and
that's all they do. After school, they go home and they sit on the side of in an alley, and they drink and they cause ruckus and.
That literally, that's all that there is to do. That is what they do. It's not like they go, I don't know, to the mall or something and go shopping together, or go to the restaurant and eat or whatever. They're sitting outside on the side of a building, and most of them are drinking. And we're not talking classy drinking, you've got a wine glass.
They're drinking out
of the bottle. These kids, that's what they're doing, and they probably haven't eaten anything.
Yeah,
they're just
they're drinking they're two-fisting fifths. Even with a full stomach, that's still gonna oh God. I can just imagine if that was a real classroom, what that classroom must have smelled like.
Mm-hmm.
Right after we saw this, I was just gonna say the way it was edited.
Mm-hmm.
This is really terrible that we have a critique-based podcast, and I'm having a hard time giving a critique of the editing. But there was just something about it that made it look, I don't want to say amateur.
Mm-hmm. I see what you're saying, though.
It wasn't slick.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was kind of, it's almost like, because the budget was, I'm sure it didn't have a giant budget, but I don't think there was a ton of money put into post-production. Like the edits were almost off raw footage.
Yeah.
Like the sound was good.
I would agree.
The sound was good. You could make out what everyone was saying. Get those things away from your microphone.
Sorry. Had to fix my hair.
But yeah, I mean, like they controlled the sound well, and the lighting was okay. But I don't think they really had the money to kind of dress up the edit.
I would agree with you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They
I would
were
agree
just
with
kind
you.
of like stark. It was kind of stark transitions, and especially also with the story.
Yeah, like
Because he started drinking real quick.
I thought a lot of things happened
Abruptly.
for him. Yeah, abruptly.
Yeah, but
The transitions weren't all that great.
yeah,
There were no transitions.
There was like you could. It wasn't like it wasn't a fluid flow. It was choppy.
Yeah, very choppy.
But it didn't.
It still
destroy
worked. It still worked. It was fine. Yeah.
But like you'll see nuance in things where there's subtle hints towards where the story's going to go next. There was no subtlety to this. It was very stark in your face.
I wonder if that was intentional. I mean, I
Maybe.
understand what you're saying about them not having a lot of post production budget, but I mean, now that we're like discussing it like outright, like I feel like maybe that was done on purpose.
Maybe. It's just something I
definitely
noticed.
know. I saw that too, for sure.
And when they started actually training, I think that there was a little bit of apprehension on my part while I'm watching him trying to teach this. Like, hats off to like good coaches, because he kind of has to bribe the two lead kids to get out there and like be involved. And I could see how it would quickly devolve into something that, like, them just screwing around in the snow, hitting each other.
Yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen.
like,
But they kind of got it together and, like, did what they needed to do. I think he also made it fun for them. Like, one of the first things that they, I guess, would you call like a drill that they had to do, Russ found a stray dog, and took him in as his own.
Yeah.
And he brought the dog to practice with him, and he incorporated the dog in their running drills. And I think that, I mean, obviously that was done intentionally, but I think that like motivated the kids to like, because weren't they like outrunning the dog or something?
One of the kids was like, I can outrun that dog. And no way. Like the drill was, Russ would throw the ball. He'd give the dog the head start, and the kid had to catch up to him, surpass him, and get the ball, and then fling it back to Russ. And none of the kids could do it. It made them like run their ass off, and
And they also cheered for each other, so they were like equal, like becoming a team. Even though it was like in the early stages, they were like on each other's side, like actually rooting for each other.
Yeah. The one dog the dog almost died.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That was
really
scary.
sad, really scary. Yeah.
But in terms of team building, there was a couple of near scrapes where tempers flared, and that just kind of happens on teams. And I was a little, I guess maybe not surprised, but like it was funny how, speaking of abrupt transitions, Russ gets there and he couldn't give two shits about like developing a relationship with these kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he very quickly, like his humanity gets triggered, when he sees how screwed up these kids' lives are, and then he becomes involved. He becomes engaged.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And that was the thing. Like when he first gets there, you can tell he's somebody with an agenda.
Yeah.
And 30 minutes in, you're like, okay, he actually his care switch got flipped, which was pretty neat to see. And then as the movie progresses, he creates all these little these 4 different teams inside of his big team, and gives them all different jerseys. Has the one girl who's what was her name? Spring. She makes all the designs, and they get jerseys made, and they all play each other so they can formulate a team that's the best team. And they put that team forward to go to nationals in Toronto, but they don't have the money to go. And that's the other funny thing, is that they, once Russ presents with them, like, hey, this is an adventure you could have to go and do this. They get geared up they go out and do fundraisers in their tiny little town. They just don't raise enough. And what's funny is they get all that pushback from the principal, who's also like the council. She's a council leader. That was towards the end of the movie, but they finally kind of relent. The town needs all this money directed to other services, and they decide to give it to this team to go to Toronto. And it's like, when this team gets there, like, whenever you've traveled to some place you haven't seen before, and you're like, holy shit, I'm really here. This isn't a book. It's not a video. I'm actually at this place. This is like amped up for those kids, because they don't have anything to give them a frame of reference. They don't know what a skyscraper is.
Nope.
I did it again. That's 3 times in a row on the same podcast.
Did what?
I just took over your show.
That's okay. It's not my show. We do it together.
They did have a lot of these kids, they pull their lives together. It gives one of those, this kid did this after he got out of high school.
Oh, you mean like you're talking in the movie at the end credits?
Yeah. Yeah.
Follows up where the characters have gone.
Yeah, because I don't know what year did it say what year they were based on? What year?
It didn't, I don't remember that it said that, no. Early 90s?
Yeah, I'd never even heard of this.
Nope.
Did you see like a poster for it at Michigan Theater or State Theater or something?
No, I just saw it online. On Netflix.
Yeah, worthwhile. I mean, if you like, it wasn't.
If I had seen a poster for this movie at one of the local theaters, or a preview at a local theater, I definitely would have gone. This is like a movie that it drew me in.
Did you see Miracle?
Yep.
This is not Miracle.
Definitely not.
No.
But
it's like, that's a Disney movie, but and they don't win at nationals.
I mean, it has loose, similar undertones.
For sure.
It's
I mean,
it's a different, more real scale. Not that the story of Miracle isn't real. It's true, but
it's true. Most of that movie is about team building.
It's more rough and like gritty.
This one is.
Yes, this one is.
But I mean, they both have to do with.
That's a really good,
Bonding.
Good parallel.
And, if you want to see one that's a higher production value, see Miracle. But this one, you get the same.
It kind of reminds me of Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, well, I never saw. It's a Disney movie. Why would I see it?
Okay. You're right.
I saw Miracle just because I lived through it.
Yeah.
But.
No, that's cool. That's
Wait,
that's a
that
different
was
conversation.
That was Emilio Estevez, right? Mm-hmm. I think in the second one he was drunk driving a Corvette at the beginning of the movie in Toronto in the winter. I remember seeing the beginning of that, and I'm like, that is straight up absurd.
Yep, that could be it.
Yeah, because like he had done well, and then he starts drinking for some reason, which I thought was a weird transition for a main character in the second movie. But anyway, that's a different story. The Grizzlies. I think pretty much everything we review, we tend to give thumbs up to.
I think we do.
And this was, like, it wasn't my favorite.
But it wasn't completely and totally awful either.
It wasn't my favorite for, like, personal reasons. But it's fun. You know what the funny thing is about, like, marketing not a sad story, but which there's big chunks of the story that are a bummer. Is just trying to make the whole story appealing to the public. Is that, you know, if you go out and say if you focus on the fact these kids have fucked up lives, and then this white guy comes along and teaches them lacrosse, this is why I'm not in film marketing. And then everything's better. It's not exactly how it is. But anybody who can watch a team come together, that's a great feeling, because there were very specific 5-second moments in that movie where you're like, all right, what you're experiencing is a good thing. And up till now, you haven't had that in God knows how long.
I think everything in their lives is so miserable and so difficult and so challenging. I lost my train of thought. Everything is so hard in their lives, and then, like you said, every so often in this movie there were like glimmers of hope, and you'd be like, oh, because I remember this is how I felt watching it. Like, I'd be like, oh, maybe there is some light at the end of the tunnel somewhere. Something good is going to happen, and then something bad would happen, and it just like. It seemed like there were so many steps backwards and they weren't really getting anywhere. But I think at the end they definitely like figured it out and, you know, came together. And yeah, their life is still going to be hard. They still have to go back home and, you know, fend for their families and things like that. But they had this experience. Yeah, and
they now have this frame of reference. Like, it could be good. I had this good thing happen. I can make another good thing happen. I think to underscore what you were saying about having something go right and then have it take a left turn was Janice was the character name, played by Tantu Cardinal. She was the, I guess, superintendent or the principal. She was dead set against Will or Russ building this team. She crapped all over it.
Yeah.
Like when he went in, he's like, this is what I want to do. And she's like, for
no
what?
Way.
Why are you doing this?
I couldn't believe she said, yeah.
I'm like, what kind of an educator are you? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't go so far as to say she's the villain, but like, I didn't understand her character. I mean, like, you're the leader of a school, and I get that the deck is definitely stacked against you, but you get this kid in who he's like, hey, I have an idea for, it's something we can afford, it's something we can do to improve their lives, and we should take a shot at it. And she at like every turn is like, no. And then even after he forms the team and these kids stick together and they start being constructive and focusing their energy on this team, and they're not out every night drinking, she makes it, which I guess this is a good thing, she made it mandatory that if it's going to be a school program, which it was, you got to get good grades, so you got to start going to class. So all the right things start happening. And then he's like, I'm going to take these kids to nationals. She's like, wrong again. Like, what? Wait a minute. Like, aren't you seeing the pattern here? He made you an offer for something that could improve these students' lives. He executed it, and it worked.
Yeah.
And then he's like, hey, we can take another step, and it's something we can afford, and it'll be something that's good for these kids. And again, she's like, I don't want to do it. In fact, not only do I not want to do it, I'm actively going to get in the way of it. Which...
she was not a very positive person, and she never
She doesn't. There was no redemption of her either.
There wasn't.
There was no like turnaround. It's like she was on a council, and they ended up granting the money to this team, but very begrudgingly.
Mm-hmm. It was yeah. It was hard to get them to approve and say yes.
Yeah. So.
Everybody was making it really difficult, and I mean, obviously, we don't want to say too much more about what happened at that meeting, but it took a lot. It took a what do you want to say? What would you say? It took unassuming people to convince the council.
Oh
this
yeah,
was the
I
right
forgot.
thing to
I
do.
forgot how it. Yeah. Okay.
I really liked that moment.
They kind of got one-upped by Janice, who was on the council, kind of got
Yes.
a stern talking to by somebody who was was kind of on her side for a
Let's
while.
just say some elders in the group.
Elders who were just like, hey, this is a good thing, stop fucking it up. And talking about just that scene, like straight out of a cartoon. I mean, and like I know that's traditional dress, but like especially for you know, I'm talking about the hood.
Yep.
Oh my god, I remember seeing that. I'm like, oh my god, that's like right out of a cartoon, but it's
real.
It's totally accurate. All right, so I like again, we saw this a week ago, so I'm doing this from memory. So there was solid 7. I don't want a 10. Solid 7 for me. Worth an evening if you get the time open, especially if you're involved in athletics or
if you're in education, I just think.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, solid point. If you're in education, you definitely should see this. And I don't know if Janice was a real person or not, but like just the apathy.
Yeah, you did talk about that at the end of the movie when we watched it. I remember that.
Like it was just kind of infuriating. Like that, you shouldn't be behaving like that.
It was really infuriating. That's a good word. It was hard because she was like that through the whole movie.
Yeah.
She never once became
Like you're
nice or
supposed
went
to-
the
if-
other way.
I'm a capitalist, and I have no problem admitting what I am. But I don't know if it's a talent or what. I can appreciate what people's focus should be when they're in different roles. People who are scientists, their primary drive should be the search for knowledge and the search for truth. Educators should be in that position, not for the money, and even though it's criminal that teachers get paid what they get paid, but they should be doing that job because they want to make a difference in a child's life. I mean, it's not really all that complicated. That should be your focus. If you're a doctor, it should be to find cure to disease and improve
Improving
someone's
people's
quality of
life.
life. Yeah. If you're a deplorable scumbag like me, you should be out there trying to make money. But or if you're a filmmaker, you should be trying to tell a story,
A good
like
story.
accurately. And that's the thing. Like Janice and the role she was in, you know what? She almost struck me as like someone who was placed in that role. It's not like she was actually a teacher, because
I definitely felt that.
Yeah,
That she was put in that role and she didn't want to be there and didn't have a choice about it, and so she was gonna make.
I'm like, what kind of? You're not a teacher. You shouldn't be.
No.
Like,
Yeah, I definitely felt that way.
just the things I was hearing coming. It sounds like a bad parent who doesn't have faith in their kid. It's like, these kids aren't going anywhere. I'm like, oh God, shame on you. So yeah, solid 7. Check it out, the Grizzlies. Do we have anything else?
I'm just looking forward to the dailies tomorrow.
Oh.
Monday.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll do that tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we could.
Yeah,
Come out
yeah.
early in the morning.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Next chit chat will be on the dailies.
The Olympics are over. They were highly viewed this year.
Tom
That's a
Cruise
big deal.
parachuted in because he loves having eyes on him.
Disney had a big, their big like conference or like whatever. I don't know what you call that, like
Conference.
summit or something.
We're at the Olympics.
No, separate conversation.
Oh.
A big like announcement of like new projects and new rides and things like that.
I just saw something about them that should probably hold off on this till tomorrow. Oh, did you see Bill Burr is going to be in a Broadway production of Glengarry Glen Ross, which I'm sure you did not
I
see.
have no idea what that is.
Glengarry Glen Ross, for those of you who don't know, is a movie about, I think it's Mamet. I think it's a David Mamet. It's about real estate sales.
Oh, a play.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it was a movie.
Okay.
Al Pacino was in it. Ed Harris. Alec Baldwin.
Called what again?
Glengarry Glen Ross.
Okay.
And it was about these guys who were trying to sell real estate, and Alec Baldwin's like the big swinging dick at the head office, and he sells a ton of commercial real estate. He makes a bunch of money, and all these other guys, they can't close a deal to save their life, and they're supposed to get leads, but their leads are weak, and it's just sad because these guys they're trying to make they meet people who may have an interest in buying a piece of property, but their interest is really kind of flimsy. And a lot of Hollywood depictions about salesmen is really kind of sad and depressing. Like these guys they can smell a commission at the end of this conversation, but a lot of these deals are not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so it's more of an exercise looking at desperation and how the wants of some men just go unfulfilled no matter how they try. And Jack Lemmon was in it too.
Oh wow.
He was kind of the main guy. And Pacino, Kevin Spacey was in it.
My goodness.
Yeah, it was. I was looking forward to it from the cast, and it was a good movie. But Jesus Christ, talk about something you want to eat a pistol by the time you're done watching it. Man, it's good. And forgive me if I didn't get that right. While we're chit chatting here, look see if Glengarry Glen Ross was written by. I think it was David Mamet.
Gosh, I've never heard of this before.
Do you have it pulled up?
Sorta, yeah. But I don't see his name yet. Crime thriller, 1990. Yes, screenplay David Mamet.
I nailed
Good
it.
job. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Anybody who knows movies is like, yeah, that's obvious, dipshit.
Oh, everybody's so young.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
There was. I would love to. Oh God, I would love to see that play with Bill Burr in it.
That would be cool.
But yeah, that's the latest and greatest. Do we have anything else, or are we just we're gonna cash in?
Oh, we're gonna cash in. I think that was a good discussion for an episode.
We'll come back to you at some point with another movie. Hugs and kisses. Hope everyone's well. And oh, great, the AC kicked in, so we get to sign off with that noise. Toodaloo, folks. Be good.
Bye. Thanks for listening.